I think it's fairly safe to say that I, Emily Clark, am a bit of a musical theater snob. All right. I was weaned on Stephen Sondheim and Rodgers and Hammerstein, okay? I prefer a Golden Age classic to a modern jukebox show. I'm not really one to go to the theater and just turn off my brain. Okay, sure, when Beauty and the Beast became a Broadway musical, I was like 13. I was enraptured. And, I'm also an exennial, or elder millennial, geriatric millennial, whatever you want to call it. So I, of course, considered Rent the pinnacle of high art in my teen years. But by the time Elphaba rose up on that cherry picker, I grew out of it. I need to go to the theater to feel challenged. Concept musicals, dark subject matter, subversive homages, art that seeks to topple the structures that the West End mega musicals layered over the ruins of Times Square. I like Elaine Stritch and Patti LuPone's Fantine. I turn my nose up at the works of Andrew Lloyd Webber, and with every beloved movie from my childhood that is turned into a soulless cash grab musical, my heart dies a little bit. Sondheim is my co-pilot. I am a grown-ass woman, and nothing less introspective than Sunday in the Park with George will do for me. So why do I love Diana so much? I mean, I know it's trash, and yet I cannot turn away. Featuring a book by Joe DiPietro, music by David Bryan of Bon Jovi and Memphis fame, and lyrics by both, Diana the Musical was originally workshopped at the La Jolla Playhouse in 2019 before moving to Broadway. It was directed by Christopher Ashley, who also directed Memphis, and choreography by Kelly Devine, who was an assistant choreographer on Memphis. Hey, just so you know, Memphis hasn't aged very well. Anyway, Diana began its Broadway previews on March 2nd, 2020. Yeah, so they temporarily shut down soon after due to the COVID-19 pandemic, but previews resumed over a year later in November 2021 with an official opening on November 17th. Unfortunately, bad word of mouth and small houses caused the production to close a mere month later after only 33 performances and 16 previews. Luckily for us, before the previews even began, the production decided on a pro shot. The filmed version of Diana the Musical appeared on Netflix in October of 2021, weirdly audienceless, and just like the stage production, it was widely panned. Won a bunch of Razzies even. I'd been hearing rumblings from fellow theater nerds on Twitter about Diana for quite a while, so around December of 2021, I finally gave it a try. So, the first time I watched Diana the Musical, I was all alone, nursing a glass of wine like you do. And I gotta tell you guys, my jaw was on the floor. I couldn't believe what I was seeing. Like, what is this? It was like the first time I saw The Room. I just had to share it with someone. So I watched it again only a couple days later, this time with my friend Megan, who is my go-to buddy when it comes to so bad it's good entertainment. We watched it after brunch. We had such a blast reveling in the absurdity of Diana. I mean, it was so bad, we were just dying. But on the other hand, I couldn't get a lot of the songs out of my head. I even found myself listening to the original cast recording on the drive home from Megan's, unable to get Underestimated or The Main Event out of my head. The dress. A few months later, I put Diana on again, this time for my way less cynical husband. And he loved it. Like, genuinely didn't see the camp, just kinda got it. So now I'm like, I don't know what to think. I need more perspectives. Is Diana good, actually? So, a week later, we put it on again, but this time with the subtitles. And boy, did my husband's opinion change. Because the lyrics in Diana are laughably bad. Like, so bad, you guys. Like, when they're not painfully on the nose, they're just painfully weird. So now, I'm not sure of anything anymore. I keep watching this movie, and even though it's bad, I can't look away. I needed at least one more viewing. So enter Cody and Gerald. Which brings us to now. I'm something like 19 viewings later, and I genuinely love Diana. But I also know it's not very good, except sometimes when it is. Arrgh! So here's what we're gonna do. The video is broken down into two main parts. The first part is going to be me and Gerald going over the full plot of Diana the Musical, so, strap in.
Yeah.
Part 2 is going to feature opinions, rants, hot takes from me, and
some very special guest stars from the world of musical theater, YouTube, and podcasts.
Oh yeah, it's a collab video,
What?
people. We got a collab.
We got a collab.
Ready, Gerald?
We do our duty for our country and our honor.
The first thing you need to know is that there's a lot of similarities between Diana and the musical Evita. Both are about larger-than-life, political-ish women who captivated their respective nations, all while rocking designer couture. Only Diana is like Evita if the main focus of the story was on Evita and Juan Perón's marital squabbles, and Che was like Judy Kay.
The other main resemblance to Evita comes in the songs, and there are moments that felt straight up lifted from Andrew Lloyd Webber's score. Why bring up Lloyd Webber? Because Diana, for all intents and purposes, is structured and presented like a proper 80s mecha musical.
Yeah, the kind of show the real Diana herself loved so much. Okay, so the show opens in 1980 with young Diana Spencer, 19 and naive, entering the stage amongst flashing lights and singing the following prescient lyrics. Flashbulbs fill the air. Frenzy fills the night. A lonely girl aswirl, lost in blinding light. We find out that Diana is at a party when one Camilla Parker Bowles enters the scene and assures her that
Charles and I are old chums.
You'll find that a lot of the musical relies on our collective cultural knowledge of Diana's infamous love triangle. But unlike pop culture, Camilla is never really the villain of our story.
No, that title goes to, but Mummy himself, Prince Charles.
We move on to Buckingham Palace, where Charles and his mummy the Queen are discussing his marriage prospects. Clever boy that he is. Well, man, he's freaking 32 years old. He suggests the younger sister of Sarah Spencer, an old flame.
Cool. Not weird at all.
Throughout the sequence, the waitstaff works as a Greek chorus, assuring the audience that whomever takes on this role will have the worst job in England. And they punctuate this fact with shoulder pulsing.
Royal couple casts a spell.
See, this is where the silly stuff starts to creep in. And may I say, I absolutely love this ensemble. They go so frickin' hard and it's just a delight.
So we shift to a scene between Diana and her aforementioned sister, Sarah, who definitely has my favorite track in the show. I don't know, it just seems like a lot of fun to play her. Anyway, the sisters dish, Diana is gifted a fancy necklace from Charles, and then we segue stage left to see what?
Charles and Camilla are a thing! Not only a thing, but Camilla is essentially the Svengali of the whole Charles and Diana setup in the first place!
This segues nicely into the next scene, in which Charles takes Diana to a classical music concert. And she's obviously so totally bored, so she starts daydreaming, and we are greeted to our first moment of unequivocal defer with "This is how your people dance," complete with lyrics like this.
If Queen were playing now, Freddie Mercury would slay it. Raven Wren, give it up for Adam
And utterly bizarre images like this.
And while yes, this is supposed to be happening in teenage Diana's head, so Diana playing the cello in a Madonna dress and Prince Charles doing the robot isn't that weird, the subsequent number, Snap Click, is really happening.
Yeah, check them out. These sexy dancing paparazzi doing Elsa cape twirls with their trench coats. They just accost Diana and foreshadow with some lyrics that leave little room for subtlety. I haven't mentioned it yet, but other than Charles, Camilla, and Diana, everyone in the cast doubles up on some roles. Yes, even the Queen. Right before Charles proposes, Diana informs him that she's a romance novel junkie, especially for the works of Barbara Cartland. Then, like a big, pink, floofy theatrical device, Barbara Cartland rolls in for a flashback. And yes, she's also played by Judy Kay. Just keep an eye on Barbara Cartland because she keeps popping in to liven things up.
But Charles finally proposes to Diana with the lukewarm, whatever love means anyway.
Nice.
Camilla insists that the girl is quite the wow, and Charles does his duty for his country and his honor.
Then Diana is whisked away with maybe my favorite weird line in the show.
But my kindergarten class, I didn't even say goodbye.
I don't know why this one line tickles me, out of the oodles of a natural dialogue in this musical, but it does. It's the one. Anyway, we're whisked away to the iconic 1981 royal wedding of Charles and Diana. The ensemble also gets a real diaphragmatic workout lot throughout this show, by the way, because their recurring motif are these staccato ha 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 ha. They never seem to end. They're always happening. We get a cool conceit of Diana choosing to take on the role of Diana by stepping into her iconic floofy wedding dress. And she sings the very pretty I Will.
Okay, so now we start to see some inkling that Diana is on track to become far more beloved than Charles as she embarks on her rainbow tour. I mean, they go to Wales.
UK viewers, is this a stereotype? This feels like a stereotype. It's clear through the song The World Fell in Love that this preschool helper will go far. Wait, hold on, sorry. The first half of the act, she's only referred to as a kindergarten teacher, but at this point they make multiple references to her working in preschool. Which is it?
It can't be both.
Maybe in her real life, she started as a kindergarten helper and then she moved to a preschool teacher, but like, that's really confusing in a book musical. I'm sorry, this is really sticking with me here.
They're two different grade
levels.
levels.
Different grade levels. Okay, anyway. Camilla senses that Diana is getting to be popular, so being the smarter of the pair, she breaks things off with Charles. When Diana comes to Charles in his pissy little state, she tells him she's pregnant, and Charles responds by telling her that he ended things with Camilla. Yeah, they really do everything they can to make you hate Prince Charles in this musical. And that wouldn't have taken very much because Prince Charles sucks.
Oh, he sucks so much. Oh,
sucks.
God.
Worst.
Diana gives birth to Prince William and expresses her happiness in the song, Happiness.
Happiness is morning and evening, daytime and nighttime too.
No, not that one. Not the song that sounds happy. This is an ironic happiness because get this, Diana is not happy.
Neither is Charles, as he still longs for Camilla, and he tells her so in a phone call, which of course Diana overhears. She confronts Charles, he gaslights her, and thus begins her breakdown in the song Simply Breathe. Her doctors warn that if she has another child, her postpartum depression will worsen, which leads up to a flash forward to the birth of Prince Harry. Diana and Charles fight some more. We get more catchy melodies juxtaposed with lyrics that are supposed to sound revelatory but are just like facts. Yeah, no shit, Di. That's how scars work. Anyway, we get a cool shot of Diana smashing a mirror, because it's a movie, it's a pro shot, we could do that. And we segue to her stay in the hospital.
Even though this scene comes right after a suicide attempt, it's kind of played like a sitcom with Diana, her sister, and Paul, the bestie butler, gossiping about Charles and Camilla, aka the Rottweiler.
She calls Camilla the Rottweiler. I just love that.
Sarah even gets a few little quips in.
And you've already popped out a perfectly good pair. Pop, pop.
Pop, pop. Oh, no.
Charles weasels his way into the room and apologizes again. And Diana expresses her need to do more charity work. We move to this musical's version of High Flying Adored, but like without the irony, because everyone just loves her. She does her good deeds in those fab fashions, which culminates in a fundraiser for the Royal Ballet.
More Evita parallels pop up as our ensemble becomes the Aristocrats, but instead of commenting on the social bearing of our leading lady, they just sing what they're doing. Then Diana goes on stage and dances.
Highly unorthodox. Okay, this is where the musical really feels like it's doing something, because we get the big fight between Charles and Diana, titled Diana, parentheses, The Rage. God, this title. Keep in mind, this is Charles singing this here. All right, so throughout it, he screams like he's in Jesus Christ Superstar and just berates Diana over and over again. And she just like takes it. You really do get wrapped up in hating Charles, even though you know it's so stupid. The lyrics are so bad, of course.
Stop being a martyr. Why can't you be smarter, Diana?
And it just keeps going. You have to sit there and watch this awful man scream at this beloved icon. Ugh!
Diana responds with another song with a beautiful melody with god-tier, terrible lyrics. In As I Love You, she tells Charles she loves him every way she knows how, and those ways include English, Spanish, and just a little bit of French. But it seems that her lesson may have been learned because
Serves me right for marrying a Scorpio.
mean, she's not wrong, right?
She's not wrong. I'm a Scorpio. Facts. Charles rushes to Camilla, and the two reconcile through the song, I Miss You Most on Sundays. A perfectly pretty song, though it's the first time any specific day has any significance to their relationship. But, it's fun to add to the pantheon of musical theater songs about Sundays. Tell me on a Sunday. Put on your Sunday clothes. Sunday. With Charles and Camilla reconciled and Diana's lesson learned, we get our Act 1 banger finale, Pretty Pretty Girl. It has everything we love about this musical. Disconnected Oz, aggressive choreography, terrible lyrics.
I think when Twiggy was the rain.
Terrible lyrics with really obvious messages.
Stories guys are taught to believe are not the stories that a girl should believe.
And fashion! Diana fashion! This is probably where I missed the live audience the most, though, because they were going nuts over these dresses.
Fashion show at lunch.
And I love that it's just kind of another derivative title. Sondheim has both Pretty Women and Pretty Lady, but only Diana could give us a pretty, pretty girl to end Act 1. Before we get into Act 2, I do want to shout out these amazing actors, though, because damn, they are giving it their all. Of course, the iconic Judy Kaye plays the Queen, and Barbara Cartland. Her pipes are strong in that good old musical theater way where she doesn't have to, skrelt an F to be effective. Roe Hartranft is uncanny as Charles at times, and Erin Davie is solid and sympathetic as Camilla, elevating a rather unflashy role. Also, they're both so much hotter than the real life people they're portraying. I'm sorry, they are. But the real Diana was gorgeous, and so is Gina Duvall. She doesn't really look like Diana, but her posture is spot on. She looks exquisite in those dresses. Yeah, she's a hell of a performer. I mean, there are certain lines Gina sings that are just musical theater butter.
Okay, so Act 2 starts with a shirtless guy rising from a trap door on a horse's saddle, belting his name.
The writers have to know what they're doing.
They do.
They have to know.
They have to know what's going on
some
here.
Awareness, because
I refuse to believe they don't know.
So this is, if you missed that is James Hewitt, the young prince's writing instructor, and Diana's Act 2 love interest. They flirt, Barbara Cartland noms the scenery, the gals of the ensemble sing You Go Girl, and I can't tell if it's an intentional 90s reference or if the writers are just old.
After the high that is, here comes James Hewitt, we get a split screen of both Charles and Diana's affairs while Barbara Cartland narrates.
The song is him and her, parentheses, and him and her. And then the lyric finishes itself off with, yes, sir, it's a blur of him and her. This sequence kind of blends into the next one. It's called Just Dance.
Dance.
Just dance. Yeah. Diana tries to connect with Charles. He blows her off. James Hewitt fawns over Diana. She's like, cool, you're so nice. Honestly, the most frustrating thing about this sequence is that the dancers are going hard. And I know the song is called Just Dance, but it's not Gaga's Just Dance. You could easily just do it with the 4 characters on stage. But the ensemble never gives less than 100%, so they're dancing their asses off in this lighting that's just totally dim, and I don't know, it's a weird choice amongst weird choices. Now, the real Princess Diana was and is an icon of the gay community. And it wasn't just the fashion or the drama, but her devotion to spreading awareness about the AIDS crisis. This is played out in the musical with her trip to an AIDS clinic in the song Secrets and Lies. And yeah, it's schmaltzy and on the nose like everything else in the show is, but it is effective because you get a glimpse of what she meant to an entire community. She saved lives. Also, the tenor in the clinic will be an icon for tenor scene stealers for years to come. But coming up next...
Yes. New York's hottest club is The Main Event. Located at a party for Camilla's sister, the place has everything. Bitchy asides, belting catfights, neckography. Plus, lyrics both iconic
Grab my bag, grab my coat, grab my feeble little husband.
and iconically bad.
It's a thriller in Manila, but with Diana and Camilla.
What can I say? Chef's kiss. 10 out of 10. No notes. What could possibly go wrong? James Hewitt. outfit, is reassigned to Germany. Wah, wah. And Diana is fed up, so she reaches out to journalist Andrew Morton. Anonymously, I might add, anonymously.
Whilst literally drinking tea, Diana spills all of it to Morton in The Words Came Pouring Out, which bears more than a passing resemblance to And the Money Kept Rolling In.
And the words came pouring out.
From every side.
After Diana's tell-all book is released, Charles decides to go on TV and tell the truth about his relationship with Camilla. Upon hearing this news, Diana turns to her bestie, Paul the butler, who finally gets his moment to shine in The Dress, otherwise known as...
This feckety dress.
This is another fun one to take us to the final lap of the show. Something light and funny, and of course, showcasing another famous Diana outfit. I'm not gonna lie here. I genuinely think the last 10 minutes or so of the musical is extremely effective. Unironically good, even.
We get the 11 o'clock number, An Officer's Wife, where the Queen recounts to Diana like, 1 good year of not being royal.
Diana and Charles agree to their 1996 divorce, and Di pointedly requests no protection services from there on out. So we get an optimistic Diana in the song If, parentheses, Light the World, and she heads out on her exciting single life, complete with some simple, silly lyrics.
All I shall do again, stand in a queue again.
But it's really good. Like, there's a really good part at the end because her final words in the show are a direct mirror of her first. You know, flashbulbs fill the air and whatnot. This time, the flashbulbs are her very undoing, and very pointedly, the thing that killed her. Upon announcement of Diana's death, the cast mourns with more ahs. They're always awing, but these are sad ahs now. They're there's mournful ahs. And Diana silently exits the stage. It's a really chilling and effective ending.
Until Charles and the ensemble rush the audience with painfully obvious platitudes.
The people who will change the world are not the ones you think will change the world.
Yad de doy!
And that is Diana the musical. So, before we get to the aforementioned collabs, I need to say a couple words about camp.
All right, Mr. DeMille, I'm ready for my close-up.
Okay, so camp. You can find tons of videos on YouTube breaking down what exactly is and isn't camp, and I'm just gonna throw my voice into the mix. Lately, Gen Z has gotten a hold of the term, and they kind of throw it all over TikTok, which, I don't know, it's kind of camp of them, but it's so much more than so bad it's good. It was Susan Sontag who famously gave the term definition and shape in her influential 1964 essay, Notes on Camp. Sontag defines camp as an aesthetic phenomenon based on high stylization and artifice.
It is the love of the exaggerated, the off, of things being what they are not.
And
Camp sees everything in quotation marks.
Sontag further explains,
The pure examples of camp are unintentional. They are dead serious.
this is why camp classics like Mommy Dearest, Showgirls, and Whatever Happened to Baby Jane hit so hard. Everyone involved is taking everything just so seriously, and it's freaking hilarious. But there's kind of another side of that coin, because Sontag further explains,
Camp is either strictly naive or else wholly conscious.
every drag queen who ever stepped into a West Hollywood bar is dabbling in camp, and they're completely aware of that fact. Or think of films like Death Becomes Her, The Rocky Horror Picture Show, even Wet Hot American Summer. These movies are camp, but they still don't really wink at the audience. The humor and the enjoyment come from the characters playing things straight. Well, straight in air quotes. Sontag goes on to explain the difference between camp and bad.
When something is just bad rather than camp, it's often because it's too mediocre in its ambition. The artist hasn't attempted to do anything really outlandish.
So Swept Away might have Madonna and Gigli might have J-Lo, but neither of those films are camp. They're just bad. The oeuvre of Adam Sandler's vacation movies aren't a fun bad watch. They're just a bad watch. But Catwoman, Batman and Robin, Cats the musical, those are camptastic delights because they swung for the fences and failed.
The sensibility of failed seriousness of the theatricalization of experience.
Everything is a show. Sontag also makes it a point to stress camp's connection to the LGBTQ plus community, stating that
Homosexuals, by and large, constitute the vanguard and the most articulate audience of camp.
the entire oeuvre of John Waters is a masterclass in camp, and even his definition of the term on The Simpsons is one of my favorites.
It's camp! The tragically ludicrous? The ludicrously tragic?
Hell, if you want to experience camp in pure human form, LA icon Angeline is not a bad place to start. Sontag goes on for over 50 bullet points in her essay defining what camp is and isn't, but you get the idea. Extravagance, a highly stylized aesthetic, the proliferation of artifice, deadly serious theatricality, a special connection to a queer audience, and a work of art so unaware of its hubris that enjoying it ironically might as well just be enjoying it. Like, Diana is the perfect storm of all of this, and that's why I love it. I love camp. I love camp. And I love Diana. And I'm very much looking forward to its afterlife in drag clubs, drunk sing-alongs, and community theater productions.
Yeah.
I am.
Yeah.
And if you really want to get into campy community theater, I feel it's important to tell you all that Broadway's Diana the Musical is not the first musicalization of Diana Spencer's life, nor was it the last. Just this very year, I saw a new musical at the Hollywood Fringe Festival called Die Lady Die, in which one woman played all the roles in a quick hour. It was pretty good too. Her Charles was spot on. Community theaters love to dabble in new Diana shows, and special thanks to Ryan Bloomquist, who set Twitter ablaze a couple years back by uncovering this gem.
Diana, you are only crying wolf. Crying wolf.
You've got to leave me alone, leave me alone, leave me alone.
Now that is camp. But I also know that my experience is not universal. Like I said, I needed more input to make this a more well-rounded discussion. So what does the rest of the musical theater, YouTube, podcast community think of Diana?
Greetings, mortals. Diva here with an official statement from the court of musical hell. It is the consensus of this court, which is to say my own completely biased opinion, that Diana the Musical is not eligible to be judged and condemned by this tribunal. Is this a good musical? Not really, no. In fact, in some places, it's pretty laughably awful, particularly on the lyrical level. But despite its badness, there's an earnest, endearing quality to the whole thing that makes it impossible to hate. Kind of like a community theater production, albeit a community theater production distinct from the actual community theater Diana musical, and that somehow got a Broadway run and a Netflix pro shot. My point is that on some level, I think the creators are leaning into the camp of it all. Yes, at times it gets overly maudlin, like when Diana visits HIV patients in the hospital, or when she meets her tragic end, but at others it gets so deliberately over the top that the cheesiness almost has to be intentional. Come on, no musical in which a character emerges from the stage shirtless and astride a saddle while scream-singing his own name expects to be taken 100% seriously. And for all the amateur hour elements, there are things here that really do work. Sorry, Razzie voters, but neither Gina DeWall as the title character nor Judy Kay dual cast as the Queen and romance novelist Barbara Cartland deserved your scorn. They're both going all in on this material and finding ways to make it work for them. And there's some fantastic recreations of Lady Di's iconic outfits, particularly in the Act 1 finale. In the end, Diana exists in the same realm of the Rocky Horror Picture Show, where judgments of quality are almost superfluous. It's something that's made for midnight showings, drinking games, and other forms of rowdy enjoyment, both ironic and un. And for that reason, it does not belong in musical hell. Maybe musical purgatory. Is there a musical purgatory? Bailiff, remind me to check how far we've established the world building on this premise.
So here are my thoughts on Diana the Musical. The second I heard the lyric, "A lonely girl, a swirl," in the first part of the opening number, I was like, okay, we're in a swirl territory. The show has tonal issues that are confusing, especially without an audience in the pro shot, which is the only way I've seen it, there are just so many moments that feel like they could either be trying to be unexpectedly tongue-in-cheek or self-aware, or they're actually just cringy. It goes from corny to fun to sappy to weird, and that just keeps going. And that's just the first like half hour. In fairness, though, this ensemble is working its little booty off, and at least they make the show nice to look at during the dancey bits. But the biggest problem, if you ask me, is that unless you are already familiar with the drama and scandal that followed Diana around during her life as a royal and after, it's not a very interesting story. Like, it doesn't really stand on its own. And if it were just like sort of other characters with the same story, but in a different country, a little bit fictionalized, I think it would just be kind of boring and low stakes. But those are my thoughts on Diana the Musical.
While watching Diana, I couldn't stop thinking of that old question. At what point does archaeology become grave robbing? It's so incredibly awkward to see a show involving people who are still very much alive, encircling a character who is not only very much dead, but died in a sudden and tragic way, having lived a tragic life, told in a fundamentally tragic story that is just absolutely saturated in camp. For me, the tone of this show is just so difficult to nail down. For example, during numbers like The Worst Job in England, where the Queen mourns how difficult it is to be the crowned princess, I couldn't help but think about how that same Queen had been treating Meghan Markle. Juxtaposed with a carefree flamboyance, it just felt like it came off callous and nonchalant. On top of that, I couldn't figure out what the central theme was. Judging by the opening number and the emphasis on being underestimated, I kind of thought that the show was trying to emphasize that Diana was somehow purposefully putting herself in such a controlled position so that people would then underestimate her, like she was playing fourth dimensional chess with them, which she could then leverage into helping people or philanthropy. This only got more confusing when the penultimate number, An Officer's Wife, isn't given to the titular character, but rather her former mother-in-law, the Queen, who then goes on to sing about how the happiest time in her life was when she was an officer's wife in Malta and was able to live a seemingly normal life. It's a bizarre combination of misogyny and this sympathy for the monarchy, in that the Queen's happiest moments are defined by her marital status, and there just seems to be this overarching sympathetic tone toward the royal family. They even go so far as to paint Camilla as a quasi-victim of the expectations placed on everyone even adjacent to the royal family. It's just such a weird move where the creators are clearly trying to not offend the royal family and their loyalists, while simultaneously telling a story about how that exact same royal family ruined a woman's life. Then, in terms of the actual nuts and bolts construction of the show, confusing doesn't even begin to describe it. This show is a case study of show, don't tell. In the middle of a number, Diana will switch between speaking in the first and third person, in effect serving as both the titular character and a pseudo-narrator.
If I devote my soul to every child in need, a mother full of pride, a princess by her side.
However, in the alarmingly few scenes where there is some sort of characterization that we're allowed to watch, they are a blink and you'll miss it moment punctuated by a snappy costume change. All in all, it leads to this bizarre combination of the story moving 1,000 miles a second, while nothing permanent ever seems to happen. For example, literally seconds after announcing she's pregnant, there's a cradle on stage meant to represent Prince William, who we then never see again. So all of these confused and conflicting components brutally kneecap what the musical numbers are capable of doing, and even then they end up with new problems. As a for instance, take the number This Is How Your People Dance, where Diana's at a boring date with Prince Charles at a classical music concert. If there was a standout number for me, I think this might have been it. They take Bach's First Cello Suite and mix it in with all these rock elements to communicate how Diana's way of thinking is so radically different to the royal families, and by extension Prince Charles. It feels like this is one of the few times we're shown who this version of Diana is, a carefree, fun-loving young woman who's being constricted by all these expectations being placed on her. But this comes back to the theming and the pace of the show. If the idea was to try and show how different she was, then that would be a good path to take with the designs of the musical numbers. But instead, they go for this like Hamilton approach where they feel the need to squash every agonizing aspect of her biography from the moment she stepped into the spotlight to her sudden death in a single coherent show. And I just don't feel like it landed. And on top of all that, I'm just not sure that they addressed some of the topics of the show with the necessary respect and gravity. Having said all that, the costumes were amazing, and the wig made her look like Hillary Clinton.
So, Diana the musical. The first time I saw it, I just couldn't really believe it. It was so audacious and so just ridiculous, but it's so fun that you kind of just get swept right into it. And it just felt like Joe DiPietro and David Bryan were just going all in on this. They were completely unabashed. You just got to eat this stuff up. I had to think that these lyrics were intentionally done so to be as if they were written in the 80s. So that touches my heart, as I was an 80s kid living in England and loving the princess, but having no idea about any of this other sordid things that were going on. So yeah, the lyrics are the main issue that I think most people would have with this musical. But I feel like they weren't trying to write something very poignant or that was meant to be taken too seriously. It was a pop musical for the pop princess, a lonely girl, a swirl, if you will. It's not meant to be filet mignon or Wagyu ribeye or something like that. It's meant to be like junk food. It's a Whopper, it's a Big Mac, a Royale with cheese. It's just pretty incredible that they went this direction with it. This one goes to 11. I think it's really cool that they made this pro shot, because normally when shows like this would come on Broadway, they, disappear after a couple weeks or a month or two, and no one will have gotten a chance to see it really. But because they did this pro shot on Netflix, we get to share it with friends all over the world, and we all get to sort of rejoice in this insane musical. And the performances are just spectacular. I just appreciate it. I thought it was so much fun to just turn off your brain for a while. It's not meant to go in and really, think about this expose on the royal family or, anything to do with those enterprises. There's no perfect shows, obviously, and some are much less perfect than others. And I felt like the performers just lived in it and just let it be what it was, man. And there's something to be said for that. And we all get to enjoy it, get to make a drinking game out of it, whatever you want to do. But Diana is there. It's for the people. It's meant to be for the common folk, like us. So we can just kind of laugh at this ridiculous, crazy world that we live in. This is a perfect example of material that, you can sort of scoff at a bit, maybe. It's a little wink and a smile to the audience on occasion. But the performers are always giving it their all. And I think it's great for them that this exists, because now, forever and always, we can go to Netflix and watch this insane musical.
So Casper and I are about to watch Diana the musical. You ready? Let's do it. I'm not going to say a whole lot about Diana the musical. What I do want to touch upon are these lyrics. A lonely girl, a swirl. It was fine when you were new. Now you're 32. Darling, I'm holding our son, so may I say, jolly well done. That one was hard. That one was hard for me to get through. I want it to be an over-the-top comedy, but you can't really make fun of what happened with Diana because it was so tragic. It was so disgusting what she went through during her life and at the end. So you can't really do an over-the-top comedy. You kind of have to take it seriously, I feel like. I mean, there are aspects that can be definitely made fun of. But there's so much of this show that I wanted to be like Hot Rod the Musical. Or like Wet Hot American Summer the Musical. What can be said?
What, do you think I'm a super fan just because I have my own personal Diana billboard behind me? I am a huge fan of Diana the Musical. A Difana, as it were. I had barely any interest when it was first announced. I mean, I knew, I'm of a certain age where I remember where I was when Princess Diana died. I remember it very clearly. So I of course knew of Princess Diana, but I didn't really know much of her story. Never really interested me all that much. So, Diana the Musical, I was like, all right, I mean, I gotta see it. It's on Broadway. It's what I do. I see shows on Broadway. But as often the case with shows where I'm totally bored thinking about seeing the show, like The Last Ship sounded excruciatingly boring, and that's now one of my favorite shows. So that happens a lot. I went in with low expectations, which probably helped because by that time, the infamous Netflix Pro Shot had come out. I had not seen anything from it, went in with low expectations, and was pretty impressed. And I think there is definitely moments of camp, as it were, in the show. I mean, the reporters and the press are just ridiculous, and the wait staff, the house staff, and the worst job in England is also a little over the top. But in talking to Joe DiPietro about the show, he envisioned a pop musical about a pop princess, and I think that they hit the nail on the head with that. I think it is fast-paced. I think it's fun. I think it's very interesting. I mean, I had no idea about really that Camilla. I assumed he cheated on Diana with Camilla, way later in life. I had no idea that Camilla was there from the beginning and essentially chose Diana to marry Charles. I mean, that's crazy. I think the music is excellent. I mean, look at And Just Like That, where she's meeting the people in Wales for the first time. I mean, that is a whole mini musical unto itself. And I think how a lot of people went into the show live, I think is just like that song. I think people were, oh God, here we go. Let's, make me enjoy this show. And I think if you saw it live in that theater, I think most people did. I saw it 4 times on Broadway live. One time front row center, which was a crazy experience. I think it has to be live. I think it was intended. It's so theatrical. I think I imagine that it loses so much being filmed, and not only that, without an audience, which they of course really wanted an audience there, but with COVID, it was impossible. The performances were all incredible. I mean, you've got Judy freaking Kay as the Queen and Barbara Cartland, which is just amazing. You've got Diana herself, Gina DeWall, who, I mean, a star. You've got Ro Hartramp, who is like, honestly, I have such a mad crush on this man right here. And Erin Davey, she gave one of the most incredible performances during Princess Diana and Charles's wedding. Instead of watching them, this was the 3rd time I'd seen the show, instead of watching them do their vows, I watched Camilla. And the heartbreak that she went through in that moment, so softly, so intimately. I mean, I can't imagine many people besides me being so close saw it, and it was probably one of the greatest theatrical moments I've ever seen. It's up there, certainly. Is the show camp? I don't know that it is. I don't know. I mean, it's sort of, I think the word camp has sort of been, I don't know if it's lost its meaning, but I think everyone has their own definition of what camp is, maybe. I think it has camp moments. I think it has over-the-top moments. But remember, these are royals. These people don't live in the real world. It's just different rules, and it's all high stakes, and I think this musical really showcase that. I remember people thinking that, oh, it's so in bad taste, and talking about the ending. The ending, I mean, while it addresses her death and that aftermath is really not a part of this part of the story that they're telling. And when it does happen at the end, I personally thought it was super tasteful. I think it was handled incredibly well. I saw people comparing the flashbulbs at the end to like the helicopter or the chandelier in Phantom. I mean, that's just crazy to me. I don't think this musical was in bad taste at all. I think people in England and Australia and other places view Diana differently than people in the States do. I think she is more of a pop figure, a bit more of a celebrity type figure than a political figure. What are some of the other things that people criticize all the time? The Thriller in Manila, but with Diana and Camilla. Come on, if you were at that party and Diana walked in to the mistress's birthday party, you would react the same exact way. Be like, yes, all right, this is what I came to see. Bring it on. I mean, that to me is true emotion. I think it was truthful. It starts off when Diana's 19 years old. You know, another camp number people always say is This Is How Your People Dance, where she's, you know, on the white cello there, but she's 19. That's actually based off of a real life photo of Diana early on when dating Charles. She's at a concert, a classical concert, and she actually fell asleep, and there's a picture of her fallen asleep, and so that's where the inspiration for that number came from. I honestly, I don't get the hate. Maybe I'll have to turn in my musical theater card at the end of the day, and I'll lose all credibility with the theater community if I had any at all. But I think this was a really, really good show. Honestly, unironically. Was it perfect? Absolutely not. What show is perfect? Gypsy. Okay, but other than that, what show is perfect? I think it deserved a lot better. I think people wanted to see it. I think once it got this sort of cult status going and it was like, oh my God, it's so bad. I think people wanted to see that when they saw it. I think people went in wanting something over the top and campy and silly and ridiculous and so bad it's good. And that's, I mean, I think people, if that's what you want out of it, that's what you'll get. But I think if you went in with an open mind and let the musical tell its story the way it's deciding to tell it on its terms, I think it was a solid evening. I think it was interesting. I think it was enjoyable. It was not boring in the slightest. And there are some boring shows out there. Just because they're good doesn't mean they're entertaining all the time. Maybe that's a hot take. I don't know. But Diana the Musical, I love you. I miss you. Anyway, thanks. Bye. Diana the Musical. Here, I've got this one too. Oh, upside down. There's my other billboard I stole.
I guess we'll never know. So, what did we learn today, Gerald?
Taste is subjective. Camp is fun. Getting off your dat-gun Sondheim high horse once in a while is a good thing.
Okay, all right. Now, we're not going to go crazy here, okay? Thank you all for watching. Thank you to our special guests. Yeah. And now, for a legally obligated PSA.
This is Diana, a rock musical. It isn't glamorous, or cool, or kid stuff. It's the most addictive kind of musical, and it can kill you. What's really bad is nobody knows how much it takes, which means every time you use it, you risk dying. Look, everybody wants to be cool, but doing it with Diana is not just wrong. It could be dead wrong.